Now, education is one of these fascinating sectors. Everyone is waiting for the unicorn to come. From Europe, we have a company which actually was already last year at our conference, GoStudent. They are the ones who cracked the business model, making money with a digital education concept. They're being hosted, Felix, Harley, and Nenad. Felix is so popular that 2 investors said, I want to go with Felix on stage. And since they are both close friends for many, many years, we said, no problem, let's do it together. So, Harley, Felix, and Nenad, the stage is yours. Educate us about education.
All right.
All right. Hey, guys. So actually, first I had a question to Felix. Not many of you guys will know this, but Felix finished university at the age of 17. So I wanted to ask Felix, what was it like to be at university at 14 or 15 years old?
Already at that age, I look 10 years older. And I'm actually also way too tall, so nobody really realized.
Okay.
And it felt normal. No, but it was, it's a general comment. I think I personally had a very inspiring teacher in my life, my grandfather, who inspired me in mathematics and science. And that also led me then into studying mathematics. So that inspired me. But yeah, Harley was also quite young on the VC side, running now one of the largest early stage VCs at 33.
Actually, it's quite interesting because both these 2 guys are probably further age. I mean, Harley, you're probably the youngest VC to ever raise a first-time fund of 600 million euros, and now, what, 3 years later, you're up to 2 billion?
Yeah, it's been a fast scaling. We raised a good amount of money. I mean, unfortunately, we had strong support from our previous firm, Insight Partners, and we're very grateful for that. There was a real continuity of the team, the product, the mandate, and focus, specializing on internet and consumer technology companies like a GoStudent. And so, but it wasn't, I mean, despite some of those vanity metrics, it was hard. It was hard as hell. I think we probably did 2,000 LP pitch meetings over the course of a year and a half, the latter half of which was in the throes of the pandemic. And I remember we were running out of money, and COVID was knocking on the doorstep of the US market, and we locked in our first close at far away from our target fund size, and then LPs told us, you're not going to raise any more money unless you can prove, now that you're sort of away from the mothership, that being our previous firm, that you can find and execute and manage good deals. And we said, well, we think we have our first one lined up, and it was Vienna, Austria-based GoStudent, where we led, and together with Deanne, a Series A investment at a, I know you don't like to be reminded of the valuation, but I think it was 20 million euro pre-money valuation.
Nenad wanted to pay less.
Yeah, so we were competing on the deal, and actually Harley paid a little more, but somehow I found out through a little mouse, a little bird, that it was Harley on the other end, and so we ended up doing it
Did you
together.
find out, or I feel like someone said it's a US fund that does only internet and consumer and plays a lot in Europe, and I feel like you just put 2 and 2 together and called me up and said, we want in, and we made it a party, and here we are, 2.5 years later. But that was our first deal, and I think it followed a lot of the characteristics of what we liked. Fundamentally a large market, an underserved market where you can bring technology, convenience of deliverability, and a fundamentally better price point to an underserved market. And I think this has been largely a tale of market expansion, both geographically, but also opening the aperture to a segment of the population for whom tutoring was too expensive or too stigmatized or not accessible, right? And I think you've bucked the trend on all of that. And so,
in German, by the way, we have a saying, was liebt, das neckt sich. So you see also on the VC side, they love each other, and at the same time, they also have this small fight going on. But also talking about age, I mean, you were how old when you started DN Capital? 30?
32.
32.
Yeah, I'm a dinosaur now, though. I can see walking around this room. But anyway, Felix, I wanted to come back to you for a second. When you first started GoStudent, what was your vision? Where are you on that path, and where do you want to take it from now?
One of the biggest problems in education, and this is something was also the reason for building the company, is I strongly believe every child in this world deserves to have a great teacher. And I promise you guys, in 10 years from now, with the click of a button, any child in the world will be able to access great teachers at a really affordable price. And it needs technology for that. Finding great teachers is like a huge issue. And building a global school, connecting children with amazing teachers is what drives us, which is also what drives our culture, what drives our people to really give everything and build something great here. There was also Nelson Mandela who once said, education is the most powerful tool to change the world. The thing with education, though, is you need to be patient. It takes more time in education to really see this impact, to see this business impact, to build a sustainable business model and create something that for all parties can work. But maybe also interesting for the audience, you guys invested in early 2020 in us, and that was also before we had the current kind of new financial situation or financial crisis. Kind of what changed also back then from the investment thesis to today when you guys invest now in new companies in that stage?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this at a lot of conferences the last 6, 12 months, but I think, for us, we've always been fundamental investors, investing in good unit economics, great teams in big markets. And, when we invested in you, even back then, you had great unit economics, a great team, growing fast. I mean, actually, this is one of the fastest companies we've ever invested in. We did the Series A in Auto1, and I think Hakan would be even impressed with your numbers. And Auto1 was just an absolute rocket ship. We took that from 17 million valuation. We sold at 7 billion last year in the IPO, and you guys have grown even faster. So that's what we look for, right? We want to invest in super fast-growing companies with great teams and big markets. And even with the markets today and a lot of people not doing deals, we think this is exactly the time when you should be investing. You don't invest when the stock market PA is 25, 28. Right now, the S&P P is 12x. And so this is the time to invest in companies. So we're very active for business, investing out of our Fund 5, raising our Fund 6.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Nenad said. I think if you sit out the trough and you're investing at the bookends of peak and an eventual peak, well, what have you really done but invest at the top and then the top again? So in some ways, there's almost this concept of dollar cost averaging even in a private market context, but where is the floor? I think no one could say. As far as the thesis on GoStudent or in general, I mean, I think sure, fundamentalist investing is critically important. You have to think about operational efficiency, unit economics, especially in the internet and consumer space. But nowadays, that's probably not enough, right? As you think about inflationary pressure at the consumer or the household or family or small business level, you really have to think both quantitatively and qualitatively of what is mission critical, sacrosanct products and services that will never be cut. What is the lowest thing on the consumer chopping block that hell or high water, I as a parent am not going to cut my child's education. I might cut that extracurricular home fitness device or something else that's somewhat superfluous, right? And I think that there's a renewed importance on that because unit economics of the past can be a bit misguiding. And so I think you have to sort of pair that with what will be the first thing to come back or the last thing to go. And I think GoStudent squarely falls into the last thing to go.
And also one more thing to add on the growth element. I also think that a lot of this very aggressive growing was also like very unhealthy for a lot of companies. And we also felt it that way. Yeah? In several departments, for example, you build up maybe certain inefficiencies, but because you need to grow your top line so much and everyone is looking at that KPI, you also inflate your inefficiencies. And then at one point, you wake up to reality, and then you need to solve for these inefficiencies, which means you need to lay off people, which means you need to restructure the organization. So I think there was also like a lot of unhealthiness going on, and for many companies that are being founded now and are on the earlier stage side, I strongly believe that this more like natural and healthier way of growing will have a even more positive impact than we have seen maybe in the last 2-3 years.
One question for you, Felix. I don't know if people saw this in the news, but GoStudent just acquired Studentkreis, which is the #2 tutoring company in Germany. So this makes GoStudent together Student Kai is the #1 player in Europe. So tell us about that deal, how it's going to change the company, and what's your visions for that merger going forward?
I mean, it was a landmark deal because a tech business, and before our core service is one-on-one online tutoring, and we acquired an offline player where you have offline group lessons. And following this hybrid strategy is something very new for the education industry, at least in the Western world. In India, there's one example that did it. In China, you have seen 2, 3 examples. But when it comes to education, education is all about trust. And by having a hybrid strategy, being able to offer both online, offline, and hybrid, you can maximize value to the families, you can better customize your solutions to the children, you can get better unit economics. Acquiring a customer online is often very expensive, paying a lot to Google and Facebook. By having also a certain physical presence allows you to lower your acquisition costs, make the business more profitable, while at the same time have your online services as the main driver of growth. Because in our industry, we need to grow 30–40% year on year, like for the next 5, 6, 7 years. We don't want to grow like 5% year on year. And following this strategy, we're very excited about it and we'll execute on it now.
Excellent. I think we're out of time. I don't know what we're supposed